I love Norbert's Gambit. I do it every single month to buy US stocks here in Canada to avoid those brutal currency conversion fees. No joke, this has saved me thousands of dollars over the years, and it's very easy to do. I'll show you. Recently, Questrade made big changes to Norbert's Gambit, and since my last tutorial was over 5 years ago, I gotta make a new video. Hey guys, it's Adrian here, the Canadian in a t-shirt. And today I'll cover the changes to Norbert's Gambit. I'll show you how it works step by step. It's super easy. Just takes about 2 minutes, you'll see. At the end, I'll clear up a common misconception on currency risk and the reverse process, going from US to Canadian. As always, I timestamp each chapter. Feel free to skip ahead. What's the point of this? Well, to buy US stocks or ETFs, you need US dollars. We have to convert our Canadian dollars into USD. That's expensive. Most banks or platforms will charge 2% or higher to convert this currency. Even no-fee brokerages like Wealthsimple aren't really free. They'll charge you a 1.5% fee every time you convert currency. That's huge, and that's how they make their money. They're great for Canadian stocks, but for US investing, I do not recommend Wealthsimple. I break down those huge costs in this video here. Now, what I do recommend for US investing is Norbert's Gambit. It's a technique to convert Canadian dollars into US dollars without paying a conversion fee. That's amazing. Now, there's a few brokers that support Norbert's Gambit, but the best one is Questrade. Let's see how much you save. If I were to buy $10,000 worth of Apple stock, I need to convert into US dollars. With Wealthsimple, I have to pay 1.5% on the full 10,000. That would cost me $150 down the drain. Instead, if I use Questrade with Norbert's Gambit, I literally pay a flat fee of $10. I'm not kidding. $10 versus $150. It's not even close. And with Questrade, it's a flat fee. It's fixed at $10. So if you're converting larger sums of money, Norbert's Gambit is the best way to do it. Sounds great, but what's the catch? Well, you don't convert instantly. You have to wait about 3 days. For me, saving hundreds or even thousands is worth the wait. But first, let's see how it works. The basic idea behind Norbert's Gambit is you buy a stock which is cross-listed in both Canadian and US dollars. For example, Enbridge. It's traded in both the Toronto and the New York Stock Exchange. You buy the stock in Canadian dollars and then you transfer those shares into the equivalent American version. This is called journaling. Now you own US shares, so you sell them and you have US dollars. Mission accomplished. Here's the key. When you journal those Canadian shares into US shares, you're not converting currency. You're just moving shares, so there's no conversion fees. Ultimately, you end up exchanging Canadian dollars into US dollars or vice versa, but you skip the fees. The journaling step, when the shares are swapped, that takes about 3 days to process. That's the downside of Norbert's Gambit. It saves you money, but it's not instant. Although it works, I don't recommend using just any stock that's cross-listed in both currencies. Since it takes 3 days for the journaling to complete, if the stock price falls while you're waiting, then you lose money. Instead, there's a special ETF designed for this. It's called DLR. This is the one you use. DLR is specifically made for Norbert's Gambit, and it tracks the US-Canadian exchange rate. I want to get to the step-by-step walkthrough, but for now, there's 2 things you need to know. This ETF comes in a pair. DLR.TO is in Canadian dollars, and DLR.U is in US dollars. Here's a cool feature. When you convert Canadian into USD, there's no risk of losing money while you wait those 3 days, even if the dollar falls. You essentially lock in the exchange rate at the very first step. Now, if you go in reverse, converting USD into Canadian, then there's a risk of currency fluctuation. I'll save those details for the end of the video. For now, let's talk about the big changes to Norbert's Gambit. A few months ago, Questrade dropped all of their trading fees. They got rid of their commission fees and their ECN fees. Watch this video for that announcement. So, buying and selling any stock or ETF is completely free. Amazing news. But they did introduce a new journaling fee, $9.95. That's the $10 flat fee I talked about earlier in the video. Don't get upset. I know it's a new fee, but in the end, this saves you money. Let me explain. Now, whenever you perform Norbert's Gambit, you pay that flat fee of $9.95 plus tax. Here in Ontario, we have 13% sales tax, so I pay a total of $11.24. That's the flat fee I pay every time I convert currency, no matter the amount. Whether I convert $100 or $1 million, I pay the same flat fee, $10 plus tax. That's a great deal, and overall I'm saving money now that there's no more commission fees. Even before, Norbert's Gambit was never free. Before, I had to pay commission fees and ECN fees during the process, and those fees depended on the amount. I've gone through the math extensively in previous videos, but most of the time, I paid between $7 and $10 for Norbert's Gambit. For large conversions, it would cost me $15, even $20. Now, it's a flat fee, $10 no matter what. Bottom line, for small conversions, I now pay an extra $1 or $2, but for large conversions, I'm talking 6,000 plus, I save a lot more than that. Overall, I'm happy with the change, and paying 0 commissions is the best feeling. Here's my advice. If you're converting a small amount, a few hundred, you don't need Norbert's Gambit. Just pay the 1.5% fee and convert your money instantly. But for any amount above $750, then it's cheaper to go with Norbert's Gambit and pay that $10 flat fee. And the more you convert, the more you save. Here's the second big change from before. Now, you don't need to contact support. You don't need to call or chat or email anyone. You can perform Norbert's Gambit with the click of a button. No human interaction required, and no more waiting on hold. Now it's time to see it in action. Feel free to follow along step by step. If you haven't signed up with Questrade, use my referral link below to get a $50 cash bonus. Let's jump in. So here we are in Questrade in my RRSP account, but Norbert's Gambit will work in any type of account. Notice the date, Monday, July 14th. It takes 3 days, so we should get the money by Thursday, July 17th. I am converting Canadian dollars into US dollars. Right now, I have $2,012 Canadian ready as cash. If I was converting $2,000 with Wealthsimple, they charge me 1.5%. That's $30. With Questrade and Norbert's Gambit, it's literally a third of that. I'll pay $10 plus tax. First step is to buy shares of DLR.U. That's in Canadian dollars. This is the Global X US dollar currency ETF. In my last video, 5 years ago, it used to be called Horizons ETF. It's the same thing, they just renamed it to Global X. This ETF, DLR, is special. All it does is track the US dollar to Canadian exchange rate. Right here, compare it to the US dollar price chart. It's the exact same graph. And I'm locking in this exchange rate right away on the first step. Here's the proof. I'm converting $2,000. Using today's exchange rate, that should get me $1,460 USD. Remember this number. In 3 days, on Thursday, I should have this much USD. So we buy DLR in Canadian dollars, click buy and sell, and confirming our available cash, I have $2,012 Canadian. This is important. I have to take away that $10 flat fee. I don't spend all of my cash since I'll end up in the negative. So I have to set aside that $10 flat fee. In Ontario, with sales tax, the total is $11.24. But to keep it simple, I'm going to take away $12. Minus the fees, I'm converting $2,000 Canadian into USD. Divide by the current share price, $13.98. Rounding down, I can afford to buy 143 shares of DLR. Enter 143 shares. I'm doing a market order, so the trade will execute immediately. Click buy, and here in the confirmation window, you'll see we're paying 0 trading fees. No commission fees, no ECN fees. Amazing. Send order. Boom, order was filled. I bought 143 shares of DLR.U in Canadian dollars. That's step 1. Step 2, I have to journal these shares into DLR.U in US dollars. At the end of the video, I'll go over all the details on what makes this special and how it protects you from currency risk, but for now, all you need to know is that DLR.U is in US dollars. Now, to journal our shares from Canadian to US, we go back to the Questrade homepage, click the Management tab, and right here at the bottom, Journal Shares. I love this new feature. You don't have to call anyone, you don't have to chat, you don't have to wait in line. No, you just have to click a button and it submits the journal request. It says it could take up to 5 days. In my experience, it's always taken 3 days, and you'll see in just a minute. Here's that new flat fee of $10. You'll notice right here, this is brand new. It's a subscription service called Questrade Plus. Basically, you pay a monthly fee and then Norbert's Gambit will be completely free as many times as you want. I'll be making a whole video about it soon, but bottom line, if you buy US stocks more than once a month, it already pays for itself. So to journal our shares, we just select our ETF, DLR.TO, and it automatically filled in. I'm converting all 143 of my shares into DLR.U in US dollars. Continue and send request. Here in my request history, you can see the status. It's in progress. It should be ready in 3 days. Okay, so 3 days have passed. It's now Thursday, July 17th, and the journaling is complete. Here in my transaction history, you can see that the fee has been paid out. The flat fee, $9.95 plus sales tax. Here in Ontario, it's HST for a total of $11.24. With Wealthsimple, it's triple the price. Back to my RSP, you can see that I now have 143 shares of DLR.U. This is in US dollars. And the number I was telling you to look out for, 1,460 USD. That's how much I'm getting with Norbert's Gambit. A perfect conversion. Last step is just to sell these shares for cash in US dollars. Easiest way to do this, just click on DLR.U, click buy and sell, and you can sell these shares right here without leaving the page. I'll show you the long way. Either search DLR.U or click on DLR.U and click quote. And now it's the same steps as buying. Click the green buy and sell button and we enter our shares, 143 shares. Now we hit the red sell button. Once again, we're not paying any trading fees and we'll get 1,460 USD. Send order and boom, order was filled. I sold 143 shares of DLR.U. I sold all my shares. I now have 0. Click on balances and look at that. I now have all that cash in US dollars ready to trade with. I can now buy whatever US stocks or ETFs I want. No commission fees, no nothing. And I avoided those expensive currency conversion fees. The whole thing is just 3 easy steps. Step 1, buy DLR.TO in Canadian dollars. Step 2, journal the shares into DLR.U. Step 3, sell DLR.U to get US dollars. I know what you're thinking. If I wait for 3 days to journal those shares, won't I lose money if the dollar falls? Not really, because of the special nature of DLR. Remember, DLR just tracks the USD Canadian exchange rate. So yes, the price of DLR fluctuates every day. But with Norbert's Gambit, you are locking in that exchange rate at the very first step. Once you buy DLR, the price doesn't matter anymore. If I buy 100 shares of DLR, I own those 100 shares. Even if the price drops tomorrow and the dollar falls, it won't affect me because I'm not selling those shares. I'm converting them into 100 shares of DLR.U. And here's the magic. DLR.U is designed to remain flat. I know it's got a funny shape, but if you zoom in, you'll see it's a flat line. Over the past 5 days, it's hovered at $10.20. It's only moved up and down by 1 penny. Literally a 0.098% swing. That's flat, and that's the key. The exchange rate won't affect your shares of DLR.U. Whether you sell these shares today or you wait till next week, you won't lose any money. The exchange rate can change. DLR will swing up and down, but DLR.U will not. It's flat, so you've already locked in that exchange rate. Back to DLR.U. If we zoom out to 1 year, it's got this funny shape. A slow rise and then a sharp fall, and then it repeats. That's because of its dividend. This fund pays a small dividend of 2.2%. So every 3 months, when the dividend is paid out, you get that sudden drop. This is the only case where it looks like you've lost money. If you buy DLR right before the ex-dividend date, here at the peak, a few days later, you sell after the drop. But you haven't lost any money because you will receive that dividend as cash in US dollars. This only happens 4 days in the year, so very unlikely. But don't worry, you will receive that dividend to make up for your loss. So when we convert from Canadian into US dollars, there's no currency risk. What about the other way? Can we convert US dollars into Canadian? Yes, Norbert's Gambit works the same in reverse. You just buy DLR.U in US dollars, journal them over to DLR, and then sell that for Canadian dollars. Easy peasy, but in this case, you do have currency risk. Before, we locked in the exchange rate at the very first step, but now it's in reverse. Now, while we wait 3 days to journal those shares, the price of DLR is changing, along with the exchange rate. Don't worry, the Canadian-US exchange rate rarely changes over a matter of days, but it can happen. Back in April, thanks to Trump's tariffs, the US dollar fell hard and fast. But that's an exception. Overall, don't stress. No one can predict currency rates. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it hurts. In the long run, you'll probably break even. Important note, for Norbert's Gambit to work, make sure you have currency of transaction set. Go to account management and down here, currency settlement. You need currency of transaction. So if you sell a US stock, you get US dollars. No automatic conversions. This is the default setting, so unless you've manually changed it, you're good. But double check just to be safe. Norbert's Gambit does work with other brokers, and it will be similar steps. But Questrade is definitely the best and the cheapest, since there's no commission fees. Note that many brokers, like Wealthsimple, do not support Norbert's Gambit, and I doubt they ever will. After all, those conversion fees are how they make money. If you're converting a small amount of money, a broker like Moomoo can be even cheaper than Norbert's Gambit. I have a bunch of videos comparing the costs of different platforms. Links down below. But if you're converting large sums of money, Questrade with Norbert's Gambit is the best by far. I use it every single month whenever I buy US stocks with at least $1,000. So if you want to get started with Questrade, use my referral link below to get a $50 cash bonus when you deposit at least $250. You can also manually enter my code, CANADIANTSHIRT, to get that bonus. Stay tuned for more brokerage reviews coming up. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of The Canadian in a T-Shirt. Bye guys.